Let's take a bite of the same pattern. Have you ever noticed something strange about your life? You promise yourself that you will change and this year will be different. You say that to yourself, you start something new, and somehow you end up in the same place again. Same fears, same pattern, same results over and over again. We all have been there, so let's talk about it. It's almost like something invisible is running in the background. In many ways, it is. Your brain is running the program. So let's think about your brain like a computer. Okay? When you were a child, the first program were installed. And we all have heard about this. This is why psychologists is always going back to the earliest memories. And this is not consciously, but through experiences. A teacher reacts to you, or friends reacts to you, or something happens and your brain starts asking one question: what does this mean about me? And slowly a lot of stories are being formed about what happened. So I have to prove myself is one story, I'm not good enough is another story, or I have to be perfect, or I can't trust people. All of these are stories. And without realizing it, you start living according to that program. So, why does people stay stuck? Here is one thing that's really interesting. So, most people try to change their life by changing their actions. They say that I need more discipline, or I need more motivation, or I need to be more ambitious. I need to work harder, which is true to some degree, but imagine trying to run a new program on a computer that still has the old operating system. It's very hard and it's time consuming. So the system will keep pulling you back over and over again. That's why some people start something new, all right, and then they think that they're sabotaging themselves. Okay, not because they're weak, because we often link this to ourselves, like, oh, I'm not strong enough to do this, I'm not ambitious enough to do this, or disciplined. But the identity underneath hasn't changed. Okay, you guys? So let me explain. Imagine someone who once tried something creative, and maybe they spoke up in the class. Maybe they shared an idea and people laughed. We all have been there at some point. The moment lasted maybe like 10 seconds, but the brain recorded something really powerful. And that is, being visible is embarrassing, or being visible is even dangerous. Because a child, for them, that is really hard. And now, years later, that person can avoid attention, they can avoid leadership, they can avoid relationship, or even avoid speaking up. So that's not because they lack the ability to do so, but that's because their nervous system really remembers the story. And your nervous system, let's talk about that. This is where neuroscience becomes really fascinating, because your brain is not trying to make you successful. It's not. Your brain is trying to keep you familiar and safe. And familiar feels safe. So even if familiar is not healthy, so even if your identity is built around struggle, success can actually feel really uncomfortable. So if your identity is built around something that is scary for you, or your identity is built around being the helper, then receiving support can also feel strange. We feel uncomfortable. So your nervous system will always try to return to the that feels familiar. And your brain constantly is filtering the reality. So it's like, is this my story? Is this familiar? Is this me? Is it not? Two people can have the same experience at the same event. So two people can have the exact same experience at the same event. But one sees rejection and the other one sees feedback. One sees failure, the other one sees learning. What makes the difference? So, the story they are carrying from back then is the story that is their lens. They will see reality through that lens. And the lens determines what you see. So, identity is flexible. That's good news. Your brain is plastic. It can change. Every time you question a belief, you weaken the old connection. So, every time you act differently, you actually strengthen a new one, a new connection. And this is literally how neuroplasticity works. You're not stuck with the story you learned, you, but you have to become aware of it first. So the question is, if you want to discover your hidden story, ask yourself this. Would I do, wait, ask yourself this question. What do I believe about myself in this area? Or I cannot do this because, I cannot have this because. You have to find the old story. Or, for example, money. In which area, what do you believe about yourself in the area of money, love, success, confidence? Then ask the deeper questions. When did I first start believing this? And often the answer will surprise you because the story you built yourself around might actually be true. So, most people spend their entire life trying to fix the symptoms, but the real transformation happens when you change the story. So, change the story, and your emotions will shift, and your decisions will shift. Your action will follow. That's where it begins. And slowly, your life will move in the completely different direction than you expected it to. But you have to begin with the questions. So that was that. Follow for more. Bye.